that the Americans received through my efforts as a spy, we were able to defeat General Cornwallis at Yorktown. I live in what is now called Portsmouth, Virginia. General Marquis de Lafayette approached me and asked me if I'd be willing to work for my freedom by joining the war effort as a spy and spy against the British. And so I agreed to do so on the premise that I'd be able to get my freedom, because my goal was to be a free citizen of the United States. And so I went to work for the Americans, and which meant I had to go into the British camps and portray myself as a slave and sympathetic with the British cause.
Straightforward with that one.
The conclusion of that is the information that I obtained from the British led to the defeat of General Cornwallis at Yorktown. George Washington and his troops were able to block Cornwallis's escape by sea by blocking off the capes, which prevented him from boarding his ships and fleeing from the war by sea. And the Marquis de Lafayette approached from the west and blocked his retreat on land, culminating in him being cornered in Yorktown, which is where he surrendered. That pretty much was the battle that ended the war, with Cornwallis's defeat at Yorktown. Now, after the war, I still didn't get my freedom. Still didn't get my freedom. I had to fight for my freedom. From 1781 until 1786, which is when I finally was pronounced a free man with all the rights and privileges of citizenship in America. December 25th, 1786 was my Christmas present. I was pronounced a free man after petitioning the government and a 6-year fight with the government with the help of my owner, who was Mr. William Armistead, and the Marquis de Lafayette, who was the French general that defeated Cornwallis. I had him to write a reference for me, if you will, that confirmed my involvement in the war and my role as a spy for the Americans, which culminated in our defeat of Cornwallis. After which I fought for 6 years, and finally, with their help, I got my freedom, and I became the proud owner of 2 horses and 3 slaves. Yes, it was all right. It was good. Some years later, approximately 3 to 4 years after that, I petitioned the government again with Mr. Armistead's permission, and I petitioned the government for a pension, and they granted me a pension. And so every year, around January of every year, I go to Richmond and receive a check for $65, which was my pension for my services. It was a lot of money back then. That was my pension for my services during the war. I later died about 1 year before Nat Turner's insurrection in Jerusalem, the Great Dismal Swamp. So a lot of history.
That's the story of
James Armistead Lafayette. Lafayette, actually, I adopted that name because Armistead was my owner's name. My employer was Mr. William Armistead, and slaves took their names after whoever owned them. So Armistead was my owner, and that was my name. When I became a free man, he was no longer my owner. I no longer wanted to carry the name. So I adopted Lafayette as my last name, officially, and I became James Armistead Lafayette.